I think most people can agree that iconic foods like burgers, pizzas, sandwiches are simply things that we cannot know a world without them. And I think that these fall in that category. So we're making bao. Again, we've made them before, but this one is very different. I'm talking about the kind that have taken the internet by storm and the ones that are shaped kind of like a little taco. Typically filled with pork belly or many other happy kiss things. And if we're gonna do this, we're definitely doing multiple fillings. A traditional one for sure, but what are the other options? My mind immediately shouted at me,
like it always does,
to smoke something. Not like a smoking a pancake, but more of a smoker, bruv. And look, I've always been a traditionalist smoker by tending to the fire and this and that, so that's where today's sponsor, Traeger, comes in. After using their smokers for about a year, I've realized that they're a true smoking tool. And since all of you constantly complain, oh, it's too hard to smoke, then the Traeger 885 Ironwood is your savior. Trying to help you here. Precision smoking, minimal active effort. I mean, it's basically the sous vide of smokers. Take it or leave it, bud. So click the link in the description to learn more about how the Ironwood 885 can smoke, grill, and do all them little things precisely with little effort. So with all that said, let's make this, shall we? All right, we're making two different pork belly buns here. A more traditional, super tender, red cooked pork with crushed peanuts, and something with a nod to that tradition, but smoked kind of like a beautiful brisket and sliced to utter succulent beauty. Now, before we even look at how to make our pork, let's make our bao bun dough. If you don't make the dough, then Papa no give you seal of approval. It's super easy, so stay with me and stay calm. Start with 1.5 cups or 360 milliliters of whole milk. It's around 95 Fahrenheit. To that, whisk in 2 teaspoons or 7 grams of instant yeast and 3 tablespoons or 40 grams of granulated sugar. Let that sit for 5 minutes. Then in a large bowl, add 4 cups or 600 grams of all-purpose flour, 2 teaspoons or 6 grams of baking powder, and half a teaspoon or 3 grams of salt. And of course, give that some whiskey business. Then add your milky yeasty boy to the flour mixture and mix by hand until you get a rough dough and just knead that little baby man for about 3 minutes or until it begins to turn smooth. Cover that with plastic wrap and let that rest for 10 minutes, then pull it back out and knead it one more time for another minute or so until very smooth and extensible. Now look, don't get too carried away with kneading or you'll end up with a tough dough and a disappointed papa. Now gently roll that into a ball, place in a greased bowl, cover with plastic wrap, and let it rise for 1 hour at room temperature. Whilst that's rising, cut out 20 pieces of parchment paper in the shape of a square, about the size of your palm. This will be for your finished bao. And once your dough is done and plump, punch out all the air and cut that into 15 to 20 pieces that are around 50 to 70 grams each. From those pieces, form them into light balls, cover them with greased plastic wrap or a damp towel to keep them from drying out. Then to shape them, lightly flour your work surface and your dough and roll into an oval that's about 2 1/4 inch by 4 1/2 inches and about 1/4 inch thick. Flip it over so the underside is now facing up. Give it a few more rolls on this side if it didn't quite get to the desired length. Then brush that side lightly with vegetable oil, fold it over itself to get a taco shape and place it on a piece of parchment. Repeat that process with all of your little bao babies. Place them on a baking sheet and cover with greased plastic wrap, and in my opinion at this point, they rise very fast, so if you're not going to steam and eat them right away, I recommend immediately refrigerating until you're ready to use them, which you can do up to 4 to 5 hours beforehand. Otherwise, proof them for 15 to 20 minutes at room temp or until slightly puffy. Now to steam these bad boys, prepare a steamer basket, set up over a pot of gently simmering water, transfer your bao buns on your parchment into the steamer, put as many as you can fit in one layer only. Cover and let them steam over medium lowish heat for 10 minutes. Listen, you need to understand that while these are cooking, don't remove the lid to check and oh, how are they doing? Because if you do, you'll release an angry gremlin that will shame you for ruining your bao for all of eternity, which at that point, I feel like you probably would deserve. Now once those 10 minutes are up, cut the heat, but leave the lid on and let them sit in the steamer basket covered for 4 more minutes. Then remove your lid and reveal the big plump boys and place them on a baking sheet or a plate, cover them with plastic wrap to keep them from going dry, then leave them in a slightly warmed oven while you make the rest. So obviously this can be done while you make your filling or after you make it, up to you. So that brings us to, well, the fillings. First up is Mr. Traditional. Start off with 1.5 pounds of skin-on pork belly, cut that into 3/4 inch thick strips that are about 2.5 to 3 inches long, then begin heating a large Dutch oven over medium-high, add just enough vegetable oil to coat the bottom of the pan, season your pork to taste with salt, and sear in a single layer for 2 to 3 minutes, flip, and sear the other side for another 2 minutes so you get a beautiful browning. All hail the Maillard action. and repeat with the rest of your pork belly. Once all your pork has been seared and is out of the pan, deglaze your pan with 2 cups of filtered water, then add 3 tablespoons of dark soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of regular soy sauce, 3 tablespoons of Shaoxing wine, 2 star anise, and about 1.5 tablespoons of rock sugar, which, to be fair, is usually only going to be found at a local Asian market or specialty market, so you can totally sub regular sugar, but it won't get as nice of a gloss as with rock. Just traditional papa things. Now bring the to a boil over medium-high, then reduce the temp to low and to simmer. Then add all of your pork back, cover with a towel or parchment paper, then a lid. This really helps get a nice seal for the perfect braising environment, and let that simmer for 45 minutes to an hour, turning the pieces every so often to get them coated in the sauce. Now please be careful with the towel, make sure it doesn't touch the flame for obvious reasons, okay? Be safe. Then once your little pork man sent from the heavens above is tender and glazed nicely, remove it from your pot, and if that liquid isn't quite thickened enough, crank up the heat and reduce that liquid, stirring occasionally until it's thickened and glossy. Then pour that over your pork and gently toss to coat. Cover that with foil and place in a warm oven until ready to use. For that magical peanut topping that those of us know and love, and potentially have dreams of, you'll simply need 1 cup of roasted peanuts, place them on a plate and in the freezer for 10 minutes, then into a food processor to beat the shit out of them by pulsing repeatedly until you get a semi-coarse powder like this. Mix that together in a bowl with a small pinch of fine sea salt, a 1/4 cup of powdered sugar until thoroughly combined, crush up any dried bits of powdered sugar, and that is your peanut topping. Last but not least is our carrot daikon salad. You can use fresh or pickled carrot. In this case, I'm using some of my pickled julienne carrot from my poke video, but to do that, get a medium-sized bowl, and of course, you're going to need a big boy daikon. Chop that and julienne yourself, about 1 cup worth of daikon, followed by 1/2 cup of julienne, fresh or pickled carrot, season that to taste with salt, and a small splash of yuzu or lemon juice, toss together to coat, and that's your salad. Okay, assembly time. Get your bao bun, fill it with your carrot daikon salad, then a 50-50 mix of fresh Thai basil leaves and cilantro leaves, top it with your beautifully braised pork belly, which by the way, you can totally remove the skin at this point prior to serving, should you not desire that. Follow that up with your lovely peanut topping, and that is your beautiful bun. Now hold on to your cowboy hat, brother. Before we crack into this here bun, we gotta make our competition. It's time for Mr. Smoky. Maybe we'll call it our Sichuan smoked pork belly. Sounds good. Since we're gonna use our Traeger, the ease of smoke goes dummy. And I mean, it really does. You add your hickory pellets to your auger, close it, turn it on, and set it to smoke at 275 Fahrenheit, and that's actually it. You're ready to go. To prep your belly, let's first make our spice mix. Get a 1/4 cup or 4 pucks of palm sugar, place those in a bag, and crush by smacking that thang. Been a bad little palm shuggy. Teach it a little lesson. Shoogie woogie, papa's boogie. Then place that into a blender and make sure that that palm sugar is pretty well crushed or it will obliterate your blender's blades, along with 4 star anise, 2 teaspoons of Sichuan peppercorns, 2 teaspoons of fennel seeds, and blend that until you get a fine powder. Optionally, you can add some dashi mushroom soup powder if you're a bad boy like me. Blend that in as well, then pour that into a medium-sized bowl along with 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon and 2.5 tablespoons of kosher salt. Whisk that together until thoroughly combined, and that's your spice mix. Next, you'll need a 4-pound piece of this time skinless pork belly. You can always cut the skin off yourself and make chicharrones if you're a real G, but that's up to you. Cut your pork belly into rectangular pieces that are about 2.5 to 3 inches wide so that when you slice this, it'll be a similar length to fit your bao properly. You may have some meat stragglers when you slice it, and that's no problem, brother. Now season your meat generously with your spice mixture, and you'll likely end up using all of it. Rub that seasoning in, place it on a wire rack, and then place it into your preheated Traeger or smoker, close the lid, and let that bad boy smoke for 3 to 4 hours until tender but still sliceable. Now while that's smoking, since we sort of have a good old barbecue going, let's make a sambal barbecue sauce. To a medium-sized sauce pot, add 1/2 cup of white distilled vinegar, a 1/3 cup of dark soy sauce, a 1/2 cup of granulated sugar, a 1/4 cup of sambal oelek, a 1/4 cup of gochujang, and 3 tablespoons of wildflower honey. Mix all that together, set the heat to medium-high, and once it comes to a boil, reduce the heat to low and simmer it and reduce for 2 minutes. Separately, whisk together 2 tablespoons of cornstarch and 2 tablespoons of water to make, well, a cornstarch slurry. Add half your slurry to your sauce and check for consistency. You want this bad boy to have a similar consistency to hoisin sauce. Add more slurry as needed. And well, that's it. Give it a little taste and go into heaven, because now you have a beautiful, luxurious barbecue sauce ready to coat a plump, succulent slice of pork belly. Okay, so once your pork belly is done, remove it from the smoker and let it rest for 15 minutes. Then using a serrated knife, slice that beautiful hunk of, oh, she juicing. So you can already tell just from these porky puddles that this is going to be a beautiful time. Anyway, slice it into 1/2-inch thick pieces. I like it thick, but you can also go thinner if you like. Then once your pork is sliced, open up a nice warm bao bun, add your juicy pork belly, give it a generous coat in your sambal barbecue, top with some fried shallots, if you can even find them. Apparently there's a shortage in Houston, which is just dope. I cry every time. Hit that with a nice stack of fresh and very thinly sliced green onion, and that already looks like an iconic bao bun. Oh, and would you look at that? I made it through this entire video without making a single bao pun, so you can thank me for that. Now, after you've thanked me, we can then begin the taste test. Wow, look at that. We have Mr. Traditional, oh, little cute little, spilling peanut everywhere. And then we have something a little different. The idea was combining brisket and, well, this. We had the smoker, the Traeger killed it. It's got the smoke, but first, let's try taste. See, that made me trip over my words.
I took a big bite.
It's just what you would expect from a proper guo bao. The delicious pork. It's succulent, tender, rich, fatty. You can taste the star anise. You can taste all the different spices, and it reduces down to this beautiful glaze. It's what you want. Now this, on the other hand, it's like a barbecue sauce almost. It's juicy. It's
Lucy.
This isn't about better. It's not about which one is better, but this one is better. Only because it has a bit of a more refined taste, and yet it hasn't lost what I think makes a traditional bao. With that said, if you want something more traditional, you go this route. But if you want something extra special, that has the flavor, it has the smoke, it has something just a little bit more than what you thought you were gonna get, gosh darn, get that Traeger one. You wanna know what else is full of smoky pork belly dreams squirtin' with meat juices? B-roll. Alright guys, and that is it. Thank you again to Traeger for sponsoring today's video. We appreciate them. And look, being completely honest with you, I love finding ways to enhance the meals that I make at home while also making things more efficient. It's a big thing for me. And the Traeger Ironwood 885 makes wood-fired food deliciously easy to obtain. So whether you're a traditionalist smoker or a beginner and you just want a perfectly smoked meal, click the link in the description to learn more about Traeger. Now let's talk about this guo bao. There's something special about having these beautiful cloud-like pillows cradling a tender piece of pork belly. It's an amazing experience, and people spend lots and lots of money to go do it. The reality is it can be made at home very, very easily. Time doesn't equal difficulty. It just means you have to be patient for once in your life. Take a Sunday, hang out with the homies, crack open a cold one, drink a White Claw, whatever the hell you drink. I don't care, it doesn't matter. Just give it a shot. You won't regret it. Now, with all that said, if you enjoyed this video or you learned something, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you